So here is B at Tryon International, and we are in the 2-star short division and just working my way around the ring. And one thing to note about B this weekend, she was in kind of a full-blown heat, so she was a little bit more distracted, I would say, than she normally is. So just working on kind of getting her attention here, preparing her for before we turn down the center line. And I always like to do a 10-meter circle right before we go in. I think it does a good job of getting them on the aids and just getting them nice and focused. And then straight down the center line. And she did that really well. And then I'm going to prepare for turning left. And I can typically ride her really forward, but she's feeling a little bit delicate. And again, that's just a little bit because I think she was in heat. But she is really making a nice shape and really trying hard. So next, going to prepare for the leg yield. I always want to make sure my shoulders are leading. Sometimes she likes to kind of get the haunches going ahead of the shoulders. And then again, the leg yield to the right. Have a little bit of twist she's tilting her head a little bit. And now I'm going to make sure I can go into my corner and go for the lengthened trot. And she kind of stepped a little wide in that, but overall I was pretty happy with it. And then directly down into her walk transition. Now I have scored a 10 on her walk before, but again, she was just a little bit more, just a smidge on the edge than she normally is. But she's still giving me a good stretch with a very good overstep. And now coming into the halt. Sometimes with B, kind of the halting stuff she loses her patience a little bit. And so here I asked her to halt and she thought she halted and then she went to go forward. And so then we had some discussion right there. But I wanted to show the halt for a little bit longer, and then she did give me the rein back. But again, I'm just attributing that to her. We're just going to blame it on the ovaries a little bit. And then she goes on with her work, picks up her canter really well. And I'm going to make sure I go into my corners here. And then we have our medium canter. I want to make sure I show the difference. Her haunches kind of come a little bit in, but she's getting stronger with that. And now we have this movement where you're supposed to give and retake the reins for 3 to 4 strides. And she likes to follow my contact a little bit, so the judges really want to see almost a loop in the rein for that. But we did the best we could for it. Now preparing for the next canter transition over the center line. She does that really well. And again, just making sure I can get in my corners, trying to keep her coming from behind. She still can get a little bit stronger in the canter to have a little bit more jump and cadence, but that's coming. And that medium was a little bit better, staying straighter. And again, we have to go across the diagonal and then give and retake over the center line. And then we come to our down transition to trot. And finishing up. So overall, I was pretty pleased with her test. We ended up scoring a 33.5, which I honestly thought it was a little bit better than that, but so it goes. But she put down a pretty solid test, and I was really pleased with her. Then on to show jump. And started off with the outside line, which walked in a 5, and I had ridden actually Fifi first and had done 5, but coming around on B, she has a bit of a bigger stride, and I felt her just want to move on down the line, so I let her and just sat there and waited for her. And then after that, I had to be like, okay, come back together and compress. She jumped that really nicely. And she's feeling really good and jumping well. One thing I have to be careful about is getting a little quick with my body. So working on making sure I stay still. She jumps a red oxer really well. And now coming to this triple. She's such a clever-footed girl, that's for sure. She's always felt really nice and quick-footed when she gets to the base. So here I'm thinking, okay, last line, this has felt great. I see a really good distance to it, have her balanced, but she just jumped it a little flat and caught it with the front toe. But overall, she put in a really nice jumping round. And now on to cross country. And I wasn't sure how she's going to feel about the bridges, but she didn't mind at all. And actually, she was feeling really good, really nice and light and listening. So here we had more so of a vertical. This had frangible on it, so you wanted to make sure you have a good shape to it, and there was a drop on the backside. But she read that really well. And coming around to this water, there was an inside line right in front of that intermediate jump, but I chose to kind of stay out a little bit longer just because I wanted to make sure that they had time to read it, both her and Fifi. But that is definitely where I could have saved some time, for sure. We ended up having 11 seconds over the time, but she felt really, really fantastic, just skipping over the jumps. Felt like they could have been 10 times bigger and wouldn't feel like much to her, which is a really great feeling. Now coming down the hill, this terrain here, and again I wanted to balance for this combination, and so I know some people did 3, but I decided to have my horses pat and do the 4, and she really was fantastic. Ended up being 8th place and put in a nice top 10 finish in the 2-star short.